I wanted to get on the phone and call all my pastor friends and say,
Hmm.
hey, watch out for the guy with the scars on his arms. He's
Yeah.
got a great story, but he's probably raking thousands of dollars from
Hmm.
unsuspecting churches
Yeah.
who all would have been like my dad. Oh, I got to help someone in need.
Yep.
Well, that's not necessarily helping someone if they're
Mm.
going from church to church. And I just thought, you know what, there ought to be some way to connect churches.
All right. Well, hello. My name's Stefan, and I'm here with Mark Forstrom with the Care Network. And I'm really excited to jump into this and learn a little bit more about them and hopefully share their story with all of you watching. Um, So we're going to jump into it. Again, my name's Stefan. In this podcast, in this show, what we do is we interview local nonprofits and ministries just to shine a spotlight on them so that people know the good resources and the good ministries that people are doing in the Cedar Rapids area. So with that, welcome, Mark. It's good to have you. Good to have
Thank you,
you.
Stefan. It's great to be here. I appreciate you highlighting our ministry today.
Absolutely. So I got to ask, what what drew you to the Care Network? Before we get into what they do, what was the thing that really caught your attention about this ministry?
Well, for me, it actually started about 35 years ago almost.
Mm.
I was living in Rockford, Illinois, and I was a pastor at a little Baptist church, and my dad was a pastor at a big church. And so we were just in the same town, and we would have dinner together occasionally. And one day, we were having dinner at my parents', and my dad said, "Oh, I got to tell you this story. This man came into our church today, and he had these scars all over his arms, just grotesque. He'd been in a chemical accident, and he was in excruciating pain, and he was just weeping. And he was explained to my dad that he needed some vitamin E gel, which is the only thing that brings him any sense of relief. And could my dad help him out with this very expensive vitamin E gel? My dad was happy to help him. He said, "Oh, brother, we're happy to help you." And so he gave him like $100 or something like that.
Hmm.
So that was at dinner time. The very next day at my little church,
Hmm.
who walks into my door but this man with scars all over his arms, grotesque, oozing and weeping, and he was saying he needed some vitamin E gel to relieve the pain. And I said, "Oh, that's such a terrible story. Have any other churches helped you with this need of yours?" And he said, "Oh, no, sir. You're the first place I've come." And at
Mm.
that moment, I realized that we have a problem. The
Hmm.
churches are disconnected. We don't
Hmm.
know who's helping who. I wanted to get on my. Of course, I told the guy, "Sorry, I'm not gonna give you any money because my dad
Yeah.
gave you $100 yesterday, and be off with you." But I
His
wanted
eyes
to.
get this big when he heard that. He's like, "Uh-oh, I've been
Like, what
found
were the
out."
chances that, yeah, we happened to have dinner the night before? But yeah, it
Oh,
was back to back, 2 days in a row. It woke me up to this
yeah.
need as a pastor. And I wanted to get on the phone and call all my pastor friends and say,
Hmm.
hey, watch out for the guy with the scars on his arms. He's
Yeah.
got a great story, but he's probably raking thousands of dollars from
Hmm.
unsuspecting churches
Yeah.
who all would have been like my dad. Oh, I got to help someone in need.
Yep.
Well, that's not necessarily helping someone if they're
Mm.
going from church to church. And I just thought, you know what, there ought to be some way to connect churches
Yeah.
to collaborate in caring for real needs. So that was 35 years ago. We actually
Mm.
started a ministry back in Rockford called Love Inc. And it's
Okay.
still going to this day under a different
Awesome.
name. But I was on the board of directors to get that started there. And then all of a sudden I moved to Iowa,
Hmm.
and there was no such collaborative church network that would accomplish the same thing. So
Hmm.
just in the last actually 4 years, me and some others have been trying to start up this what we're now calling the Care Network CR
Oh,
that does that very thing.
that's awesome. That's awesome. So, I think after hearing that story, it's pretty obvious, but how would you define just really who you serve?
Well, really, we serve churches. We're
Mm.
trying to make churches effective. One of our sort of slogans is the Care Network is helping churches help people.
Yeah.
And so if churches don't know what the needs are,
Hmm.
they have a hard time helping them. If they don't know if these
Yeah.
are legitimate, or if there's,
Hmm.
there's all kinds of people that come to churches with needs, but it's hard for a pastor or a church secretary to discern like, is this legit? I mean, the
Yeah.
research it would take, are we going to make phone calls and do
Yep.
background checks and all that? There's no church really has time to do that. So that's
No.
where the Care Network comes in as kind of a first stop in helping people. The concept is that the churches will send people in need to us.
Mm-hmm.
We will sit down, or actually on the phone, we'll spend
Yeah.
an hour or so hearing their story, finding out what the real need is. It may not
Mm-hmm.
be what they think their real need is, but helping discern the real needs. And then, if it is a legitimate need, we want to connect them to churches
Yeah.
who can help them with those needs.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I'll tell you, I mean, you know this, Mark, but for those watching, my wife, her job is answering the phone over at our church, Stonebridge, and
Okay.
she's that first line of defense for those phone calls.
Yeah.
And I will tell you the amount of anxiety and stress and fear, legitimate fear she has when she takes some of these calls or people walk through the front door, not knowing what's really going on. Is this person even safe to be around? Those are legitimate questions
Well,
that,
yeah, and you don't want to waste the Lord's money if this isn't really a need. Do we really want
yeah,
our benevolence funds going to someone who is like that guy with the scars on his
yeah,
arms, just working the system, trying to get
yep.
a handout, and he needed something different than that.
Yeah, no, that's good. There was a time when I was a pastor out in Utah or out in Wyoming, sorry. Pastor out in Wyoming, there was a guy that randomly showed up. I was living in a church that we were rehabbing into an apartment. And he showed up, went to was talking to me. We had some friends over and got to hear a little bit of his story and kind of figured out, all right, this guy, there's something off. We don't really want to welcome him. I want to separate him a little bit and found out the church that he was staying with or had connection with. I called him twice. I couldn't get through to him. And I was thinking, oh, that's kind of weird. About 3 months later, my church gets a phone call from this lady where apparently this guy had just left and disappeared, and they found his vehicle near the town. And that was
Oh,
the
wow.
last time anyone saw him.
Huh.
And I still wish that I had some connection to that other pastor at that other church that he was staying at, to where we could have at least had a conversation and helped this lady track down whoever this guy was. So that
There's,
connection between pastors
yeah,
is huge.
it's so important that we just collaborate, connecting, communicating, and find out
Yeah.
what others have done. And maybe one church has already helped somebody,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't know that unless somehow we had a means of communicating and a
Yeah.
network of sorts. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. So tell me about since you guys have been launching the Care Network CR, what's a win or a success story that you guys have seen?
Yeah, well, we've been operating for about a year, kind of beta testing,
Mm-hmm.
getting the processes in place for taking phone calls and
Mm-hmm.
identifying the need. We have volunteers that will answer the phone
Awesome.
and interview the people and find out what their needs are, and then
Yeah.
we defer them out to churches to meet the needs. The churches get all the credit and all the fruit. We're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of the invisible middleman that helps make
Yeah.
those connections. But one good story though is we had a veteran who was an elderly veteran who was just depressed, and he was about to get evicted from his apartment,
Mm.
and because it was a mess, because he was depressed and it kind of gotten out of control. And so he called the Care Network, and we sent a team. I was part of that team to his apartment, and we had a cleaning day, and it was like spring cleaning to the max, and hauling stuff to the dumpster and getting his place clean. It hadn't been that clean in ages,
Mm.
and what a blessing it was. And
Yeah.
just having when you're in a depressed state, just living in a pigsty
Mm-hmm.
it perpetuates that depression
Yeah.
and hopelessness and loneliness. And so we were able to come and in the name of Christ, through these
Mm.
were church people coming
Yeah.
in the name of Jesus to help him out. We weren't government people, we weren't
Yep.
like an agency, we were people from the church, and
Yeah.
being able to be a blessing. And it was a mutual blessing both to him and to all of us that went.
Oh, no, that's great. You mentioned something not from a government agency or a community thing. Why do you think so many s- it used to be that hospitals and charities, they were all based in the church, right?
Yeah.
That was the start of it. That's why so many churches start with saint, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What changed? Why are they all government funded from your perspective?
Yeah,
And
well,
we're spitballing here.
yeah. No, there's actually a great book that really has helped me. It's called "When Helping Hurts."
Okay.
happen to have a copy right here.
Ah, little
And
plug.
yeah, it's a great book just talking about like what really is helping, and
Hmm.
and it explores those ideas. Sometimes we think we're
Yeah.
helping, but we're actually enabling, or we're
Yeah.
we're, we're duplicating and things like that. But one of the parts of that book that really affected me was he talks about historically in America, he calls it the Great Reversal,
Mm.
where churches used to do the caring, just
Yeah.
like you mentioned, and it got turned over to the government.
Hmm.
Now we have all these social welfare programs, and the church was kind of hands off, and
Hmm.
the government's taking care of those kind of poverty alleviation
Mm.
needs, and it's got to come back to the church. I mean, that
Yeah.
this really is where it needs to be, because we can help them not just with their physical situation, but with their spiritual needs as well.
Yeah. It's so true because I mean, yeah, the physical situation's important, but if we can get the spiritual side right, it makes the physical one a whole lot easier to navigate.
Yeah, a whole person needs to be helped in every
Yeah.
dimension, and we're spiritual beings too. And so,
Mm.
allowing people to come and have their spiritual needs met and to be prayed for and cared for in a holistic manner is just it's a beautiful thing.
I love it. I love it. So what's one of the common struggles that you guys are running up against these days?
I think with any startup, just getting awareness
Yeah.
is one of the things. Now, thankfully, we were able to. We started this network, and it seemed wise, instead of creating a separate network,
Hmm.
which we were starting off trying to do here in Cedar Rapids, and someone suggested, you know what, we have a network already in place called the Serve the City.
Mm.
What if we could bring this under Serve the City? And so
Mm.
about a year ago, we brought the idea to the Serve the City board, and they embraced it. And actually, this really is becoming Serve the City is going to be all about the Care Network. In fact,
Yeah.
we're going to be referring to it as the Care Network now, instead
Oh
of Serve
wow.
the City. Existing network of gospel preaching churches,
Hmm.
and now we're just collaborating in a different way to help the community as a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And so that this has just been a real blessing to collaborate there with Serve the City. So I'm
Awesome.
actually I'm the Serve the City chairman, the board
Oh,
chairman,
cool.
and but now we're going by the Care Network. So
All right, that's awesome. I love that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
hearing a little bit of your history of doing this in Rockford, Illinois, right, where you've kind
yep.
of built this up, it's existed and got it going, a proof of concept, and then even proven it here that hey, it's not just in this area that it works, but we can make this work in Cedar Rapids as well. And then
Hmm.
having the gospel preaching churches already connected, it really just seems like you've got a good running start at this where others may not.
Well, and it seems, Stefan, like, in this day and age, the culture we live in, churches are often seen as the haters, and
Hmm.
we don't care for people. We're just judgmental and this and
Hmm.
that. And so I just look at the Care Network as just being a great opportunity for us to reverse that narrative
Yeah.
by unmistakable, powerful examples of love.
Yeah.
Those church people, those crazy Christians, they're the ones who really would like to help you,
Yeah.
and help you in your real areas of need, not just throwing money at problems, but really coming alongside of people, hearing their story, finding out what they actually need, which
Mm.
might not be what they think they need. They might think they need money for rent. They might need to learn how to manage the money they have, or
Hmm.
learn how to practice delayed gratification, or learn how to live
Yeah.
within their means, or learn how to get a job, or learn how to interview, or learn how to get a shower so that you can get a job.
Yep.
There's a lot of things that might be their actual need, not just a handout.
Oh, no, that's good. It's almost like it's like what Jesus said, they'll know you're my disciples by your love for one another.
That's exactly
Let's
right. Yeah.
just obey that.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see how that works.
See how it works. I feel
they
like it's got a pretty good track record,
they can
but
call us whatever they want, but the fruit of our labors is going to be unmistakable.
yeah.
That we're the ones who really can help.
No,
Yeah.
I good. No, I love that. I love that. So when you think about right, you're trying to get the word out so people know that hey, this is what we do. This is who
Hmm.
we are. What's a need, a specific tangible
Hmm.
need that the Care Network has right now as you're in this launching stage?
Yeah, right now, really, our real need is finances,
Mm.
because we need to hire a few staff people to run
Mm-hmm.
the Care Network, an executive director and a
Yeah.
connection center coordinator that's going to run the
Mm-hmm.
operations of the call center. And so we've got some staffing needs. and that takes money. And so
Yeah.
that's really our big holdup. We have all the processes figured out. We have everything, all of the forms and the systems in place to help people. We've got churches that are coming on board. We have over a dozen churches that are
Oh,
already
wow.
part of this network, and we're growing as we go along. But it's really that's going to be the big holdup is
Yeah.
the funds to hire staff. And we're going to have a lot of volunteers answering the phones,
Mm-hmm.
but we need staff people that are going to make
Yeah.
sure that we have consistent processes in place and that we're treating things with
Yep.
confidentiality. And there's just a lot that we can't rely on a volunteer to do a lot of those things. We don't want to shut down because someone that went on vacation.
Yeah.
We want to be
Yeah.
open 5 days a week. We want to be always available for as a resource to
Yeah.
churches here in the city.
That's good. So really just building out those finances so that you guys can have those recurring gifts specifically. Is that what you're looking for?
Yep. Yeah. Anything, one-time gifts or recurring gifts. We need
Okay.
to have a sustained budget so that we can operate. That's the only thing that's missing is just
Yeah.
the funding to make this happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and
and
you want to make sure that you're funded well so that you can support those people that you're asking to do this full time. Like
yeah,
people who are overseeing this specific ministry, you want it to have all their focus. And if they're worrying about putting bread on the table, then you're not being a faithful leader to them. So
right.
I applaud
Yeah.
you for looking for that. So that's
Yep. Yep.
awesome.
And we're kind of a unique ministry in that we're not a provider like a lot of nonprofits are providing services to
Yeah.
needy people. We're the churches are actually the providers,
Yeah.
and we provide the churches with real needs and
Yeah.
resources. And so we're kind of the invisible, kind of almost a ghost organization in a sense. That's what we want to be. We
Yeah.
want people to say, hey, my life was changed not because of Care Network CR changed my life.
Yeah.
We want them to say my life was changed because people from Stonebridge or people
Yeah.
from Antioch or New Covenant or Trinity
Yeah.
Presbyterian, those people came alongside me in my time of need
Mm-hmm.
and they welcomed me. And we want to ultimately we want to get people connected to churches
Mm-hmm.
where they can be part of a community.
Mm.
That's really our goal. It's not just
Yeah.
to have a temporary need met, but for them to be wealthy when it comes to relationship with God's people.
That's good. And that's gonna pay off way bigger dividends
Hmm.
than just helping them solve one budgeting issue or paying their bills or
Hmm.
yeah, all those different felt needs that people run to churches oftentimes for. So to have the
Right.
community of believers around them. It's so interesting. I met a newer couple at our church, and one of the things that really drew them there was just seeing community, right? They just needed it. And these aren't people who are going through a hard time. These are just people like you and I. They just need community. And I think for people going through hard times, that's just exponentially more essential that they
Hmm.
have a good foundational community around them of people that love them and love the Lord. So it's
Yeah, I saw a
good.
definition of poverty once is the lack of relationships. That's
Oh,
really a good measurement of a person's real condition.
oh no, so good, so good. Well, one of the needs is just gifts, right? The
Yep.
financial needs. Well, if someone couldn't do that, right? Because
Hmm.
times are hard for not everyone's able to, not everyone has that ability. But if they couldn't do that, what's another way that they could help the Care Network?
Well, certainly we need volunteers both at the Care Network in the office, answering phones, filing paperwork, things like that. There's
Hmm.
a big need for a steady crew of volunteers to
Yeah.
be manning the phones, and so that's one way. Other ways, just even within the churches, as
Hmm.
we direct needs to the churches, those churches are going to need people that are going to be ready, willing, and able to serve the people in need.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I get real excited about is that churches want to help, but they don't really know what help looks like or who
Yeah.
needs help or what.
Yeah.
And so as we send people real needs, churches have all kinds of resources that are untapped.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll identify a widow who has a leaky sink
Hmm.
and she's in danger of having mold into her house, and and there's maybe a retired plumber at Stonebridge Church that
Yeah.
would be happy to go and fix her leaky sink,
Hmm.
and in a very tangible way, love her using the gifts and the resources that God has provided. So it strikes me that there's just so many untapped things, auto mechanics that could fix someone's brakes that
Yeah.
needs to get to work. Um, all kinds of different resources that are untapped. People are used to volunteering in churches, as an usher or as a nursery worker or
Yeah.
greeter. But where does a person serve in a church that has other gifts that
Yeah.
maybe are not quite as visible?
Yeah. No, that's spot on. And I think oftentimes, especially, being in church leadership or working at churches, you see we can talk so often about, all right, people need to be serving somewhere, right? That's just part of being a believer, serving. And it turns into, all right, serve at the coffee bar or serve with kids or serve on Sunday morning somewhere, which isn't bad, right? It's
No,
not a
those are all
bad thing.
important things. They're
Yeah,
essential. Yeah.
they're essential. But there's also the piece of, all right, how are we serving our community? How are we serving those that need us, and not necessarily yeah, not just here on Sunday morning, but throughout the week as opportunities present themselves. And I think a lot of people don't even know where those opportunities are. So having a place where they can see these are tangible opportunities to serve, having people that are walked to the church saying, hey, here's someone in need that we think you can help. And it's really obvious how to do it, right? Making it simple.
Well, yeah, and then just the joy that comes from that. Like when we
Oh
cleaned
yeah.
out that guy's apartment, like that didn't take high level skills. It
Yeah.
just it just took some time and some care and some
Mm.
rubber gloves and things like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But it was something that was so rewarding, and
Mm.
so glad we got the opportunity to do that. And then to invite the guy to church on Sunday. Those are the
Oh
kind of
yeah.
things that we can do as Christians in helping people that have real needs.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. I love it. I love it. So, for those of you watching, there's a couple ways that you could help. One, financially, if you uh, felt feel the need or feel called to, love to have you support the Care Network. It's a great ministry just to so they can hire some staff, can hire their executive director, hire some a ministry coordinator, bring on those staff people so they can really maximize the work that they're doing and not relying solely on volunteers. Another way, if you know someone in need, right? Here's a way to plug in. If you're someone who has some skills, whether it be a plumber or whether it be an auto mechanic, whatever it is, make sure those are available to your church and to the Care Network. Be a great opportunity as people are brought over. Did I cover those well, Mark?
I think you did. Yeah, just our
Yeah.
financial need is pretty urgent right now,
Yeah.
just because we really want to get our staff hired and get up and running. We've
Yeah.
had to hit pause for the last couple of months just to do some fundraising and
Yep.
to kind of get that figured out. So that's an immediate need. We're going to be up
Yeah.
and running as soon as we can get enough to make that happen.
Awesome. And do you mind me asking what the goal is at this point?
Yeah, we have a 20,000 matching goal right in place right now,
Awesome.
go through the end of January,
Hmm.
and that'll get us off to a good start. Ultimately, we want to get like over $100,000 would be
Okay.
important to have the staff that we need in place.
Yeah.
So that's a lofty, big, hairy, audacious goal, but that's something that we are working towards. So definitely going to need any assistance in that direction.
Yeah, awesome. Well, if someone feels so led, what would be a step that they could take to either get in touch with the Care Network, to get a gift to you guys? What can they do? How can you make this easy for them?
Yeah, a couple of things you can look on Facebook. We have a Care Network CR uh, page. That would be a great place
Okay.
to follow us on Facebook. We have a website that's under development. It's called CareNetworkCR.org.
Okay.
And there's a link there for donations and also to contact. There's contact information if you would like to volunteer or get in touch with us. You can do it either through the Facebook group or through the contact us part of our website. So carenetworkcr.org or on Facebook as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, Mark, thank you so much for hopping on this. Before we close, I'm gonna pray over you, pray over Care Network, and I know this is recorded, so the prayer's just gonna get repeated every time someone plays it. I mean, that's pretty
That's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah. So let's go to the Lord. Lord, thank you so much for Mark. Thank you for the good vision of the Care Network CR. Lord, the opportunity to partner churches together in caring for physical needs in our community, but not just for the goal of caring for their physical needs, but caring for their spiritual needs as well, caring for the whole person. Lord, as the Care Network does that, and as they launch, I pray that you would bless that ministry. You bring so many people to you to learn about you, to grow in you, and to follow you faithfully. Lord, that would be the fruit that we would see through the Care Network. Thank you for their partnership with churches, knowing that that is your body and your organization that you've ordained to care for people. Lord, praise you for that. Again, thank you for Mark. Thank you for the Care Network. And specifically, I pray that you would provide the $100,000 so that they can launch this ministry with all the resources possible, or that they get this really going to where we can truly serve our community, and your gospel would go out. Well, again, thank you for the Care Network CR. Thank you for Mark, and thank you for all the countless hours of volunteers that have already been poured into this ministry. We know you're doing good things through it now, and you'll continue to. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you,
All
Stefan.
right. Thank you, Mark.
It's been a
Bye-bye.
delight.